Welcome, my friends, to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. I'm Deborah Deras, your host. Each week, you'll hear from top experts in the speaking industry who will share their insider secrets. Learn what works and what doesn't by hearing real stories of success and failure. My intention is to be your speaking coach to help you reach your goals faster and easier. I believe you are the messenger for the message. So thanks for tuning in, and let's get started. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the Be a Paid Speaker Now. Just like every week, we have an amazing expert, someone that I've had the privilege and pleasure of coaching on her speaking career. She is a strategic life consultant who is currently teaching an online course titled It's Not Too Late to Start Now and Reinvent Your Life in Your Mid-30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. Her name is Cenita Johnson, and she is going to share with us some tips of how you could release, let go of fears, worries, doubts, anxieties about getting paid to speak even later in life. So please, let's have a Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. Welcome for Cenita. Hello there.
Hello, Deborah. How are you?
I am so grateful that you are available. I know you have such a busy schedule, and I just want to say how much I appreciate you're always being flexible and you're always being available and just always having a sunshine smile. Supermodel. We didn't.
Thank you. Anything for you. Thank you for having me. You've been
Uh,
instrumental in my life and my career as I'm expanding. So, of course, I'm available.
yes, and I didn't mention in your short little bio about your previous career, but you were a model at one point, correct?
Yes, I was a model for over about 16 years, most of my adulthood. But before that, I was in the Air Force and I've had some entrepreneurial pursuits. So, yeah, but modeling had encompassed most of it.
And so, what made you decide, and you can give your age if you desire, what made you decide at the point in your life that you were ready to be paid as a professional speaker?
Oh my gosh. Being a public speaker has been on my goal list forever. I'm a voracious reader. I love books and just nonfiction books, being motivated by the written word, and also having been in the presence of great speakers like yourself and having my life being empowered and feeling motivated from it. It's like I wanted to do what they were doing. But I found myself I'm 51 now, but for so many years, I held myself back because I felt that I didn't have a message, especially when I was modeling. And many times I tried to get into public speaking. I took courses and I held myself back because I kind of would always say, well, what do I have to offer? I'm only a model. What can I share? I'm only a model. But I had a lot to share. And that's what I think a lot of people hold themselves back because they limit themselves. They think that they don't have anything to give because there are so many great speakers out there.
And that is such a wonderful teaching point, because my tagline, as you know, is you are the messenger for the message. And in my
Yes.
coaching, I talk about how it's through us and not from us. That's why when I do a prayer before a podcast or before a speech, it's always to be that unencumbered, open vessel. And when we think about all of us, we come here as spiritual beings in these human bodies with a soul's contract. That's what I believe, that we have unique talents, skills, and abilities, and we're here to make a difference, to transform the world by our presence. And each one of us has a story. Each one of us has an expertise. How did you, through the process of taking your courses and through the process of self discovery, catch what your message was? Do you have any concrete tools or processes you can give people to really understand their own message?
Well, think one of the biggest issues that people, when we hit middle age, that why we're so afraid is because we become a bit more fearful to do new stuff. You know, everything else is on automatic. So the idea of doing something else or doing something new, or even the term starting over, it kind of ignites fear in people. So I like to always say expand. I'm expanding. So whether you're coming from being an accountant, you're a doctor, or whatever it is, and you're ready to pursue this public speaking career, or you're holding yourself back, don't think of it as starting over or starting something new. You're expanding because as a public speaker, you're sharing your experiences in life, whether it's you're sharing tools that you learned, whatever it is that you're sharing, it's an expansion of your life already. So you're not starting over. You're not starting new necessarily. So you're just expanding.
I
And
love
that
it.
gets rid, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And just like you, I've heard a lot of really amazing speakers, Les Brown, Michael
Mm-hmm.
Beckwith, Marianne Williamson, and a lot of speakers talk about, and it's really basic neurolinguistic programming, NLP, how we process information. It's the language we use. So we
Right.
often set ourselves up for failure by comparison, or well, what other people are doing or what I should have done by this age. But think of somebody like Louise Hay, who started her self help publishing company, I think at age 60. I met her at age 80, and she was still going strong.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
when you think about expansion, it takes away a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the charge of the fear. So, how you have been able to set yourself up for success is talking yourself into it instead of talking yourself out of it. Because the ego will say, who am
Exactly.
I to do this? Or what do I have to share? But the truth of who you really are says, I know I have a story. I know I have a message.
Exactly. And then the other thing that's so great is with you, with the Speaking Academy. I mean, I know, hearing when I hear of speakers such as yourself, and they always mention, that they've been in the industry for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. At this age, I'm like, oh my God. One, I don't have that kind of time. Two, I don't have that kind of energy to try to figure out the nuts and the bolts of the industry. That's why I love the Speaking Academy and what you do, because you cut through all of that. It's like you take off the 10 years, the 20 years of the hard knocks. It's a fast forward into a speaking career, which is great for people like me in our age, because it's like, oh my God, I can start now. You have the contracts. You walk us through how to find our message, and that specific purpose, which is really important.
And you and people like you were my inspiration for creating this program. My first business was called Passionate Living Now, because I didn't want people to wait till they're retired to be passionate,
Mm-hmm.
and prosperous. So, for those of you that don't know what she's talking about, I created a Be a Paid Speaker Now online academy that basically takes I thought I had 16 years experience. I looked, it's like 18. Takes everything that every class I took, courses with the National Speakers Association, with speaker services, with Christopher Howard, with T. Harv Eker, I spent thousands of dollars. I got all this, Paul Sheely, photo reading, how to work the stage. I had every class, every course, not just on marketing, on presentation skills, on speaking skills, on communication skills, on back of the room sales. And Mark Victor Hansen taught me all this stuff. But it's like, how can you do it all? And I just put it into just a really simple online course that helps people like you, people that are listening, so that you don't have to take 16 years, because you can have it now. I mean, you could get out there. I have a client, Cenita, that who is over, I think 45, I don't know exactly his age, has a stutter,
Mm-hmm.
and his first paid speaking engagement was $10,000, and immediately booked a second one, his first time out of the
Wow.
gate. So I always say, with the power of synergy, anything is possible. But how
Yeah.
can you help people that are afraid to stop doubting, that their age is a barrier?
like I mentioned before, I have the main tools to think of it as expanding, not starting new. Then there's also a tool that I just discovered by an author speaker named Mel Robbins called
Oh,
the 5
yes.
Second Rule.
I love
Yes.
it.
I love how she spoke of how she held herself back for years because, like as you mentioned, the ego. We think about doing something, and the ego talks us out of it, and we're back to our usual, everything else that as we were, and not moving forward. But the 5 second rule is just like a launch pad. When a rocket launches, you count to five backwards, five, four, three, two, one, and you act, take action on whatever it is that you say that you want to do. Because at this point in our lives, most of us, we know what we need to do, but we just don't do it. We
Mm.
know what we want to do, but we just don't do it. So you have to find a tool that you haven't utilized and to kind of propel you forward. So the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Just do it.
I love it. That's how I get myself to do home weights. I really don't like weights, but I love like dance hall music. So I always
Mm-hmm.
suggest that people anchor something that they are scared to do or don't want to do with something that they like to do. So then in the
Right.
mind there becomes like a positive reinforcement. So by having my dance hall music on, but now I'm going to add your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I've heard about
Yeah.
but I never knew the technique, how simple that is. And that's
Isn't it?
and that's something that she was the number one booked speaker of 2017. And she's, I bet you, are in our age group or at least over 40
She
for sure.
is. Yes.
And
Yes,
she just
definitely.
last year put herself on the map as a speaker. So I'm under the firm belief that it's never too late to do anything. As long as you have breath and life, there
Right.
is possibility. We're no longer living in a day and age where you work 40 years and then you retire. If you do what you love, you really don't want to stop. You may cut back and do more passive income, which in the academy I talk about that if you don't have the energy to be a keynote speaker every day of the week or once a week, then you create your business that works for you. Maybe you're going to do online programs, maybe you're going to do webinars, maybe you're going to do events. You create your speaking career. It's not something that somebody says you must do this many speeches. That's the great thing about the freedom of professional speaking. You decide that. So you're not
And
being
because we are in a technology age, like you said, you have the options of webinars, and just there's too many options out there to say no.
exactly. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
I think AT&T paid me to do like a stress management webinar for their people. More and more people are wanting to
Yeah.
go for online training programs and that kind of thing. So when it comes to starting something and
Hmm.
taking that leap of faith. I always say that if you have an idea or an inspiration, I call it a divine download, that the universe has all of the support and resources to make it happen and not to focus on how, but to focus on what. What is it that you're inspired to do? What is your
Hmm.
expertise? We've talked about this with you. Your expertise is really coaching people, millennials, and anybody that wants to reinvent themselves. You have that niche. And when you have a niche, that clarity is cash, people will seek you out because they'll be able to
Yeah.
find you. So, how do you position yourself as an expert to get paid gigs?
Well, to find your passion, to find what's natural to you, I like to use what I call the 3 R's. Now, this is kind of funny because, of course, because I'm speaking to those of us who are middle age and up, the 3 R's we learned when we were in elementary school, right? Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Well, they say as we get older, we start moving towards being a child again, right? So I kind of did a little twist. So since we're going backwards sort of to another form of childhood, well, now we have a different 3 R's, and that's reassess, reinvent, and reignite. So
Mm.
reassess your life and find your passion, then reinvent and put your passion into your speaking career, finding what you really want to do and what you have to share, your purpose, and that's going to reignite your life. I mean, we're in what's called right now the longevity evolution. Most of us are going to live till we're in our 80s or 90s. So if you're 50, I'm 51 right now, it's possible that I have another 30 something years. I'm not going to sit around and just relax. Most people are not. So you got to find something. It's great to start reinventing and recreating now because it gives you something else to do down the line when you retire from this particular career, and just keep expanding, keep growing. Right now there are 80-year-old retirees starting their own business.
Like
There's
my
no
mom.
limit anymore. Yeah,
My mom,
and they're
I don't want to
doing
say she's
well.
80. Let me correct that for the podcast. My mom is early 70s, but she would kill me. She was working at a hospital doing speech therapy, and she had to be there certain hours and this and that. And so she retired, and then she started her own business doing home health. And she's like, Deborah, I'm like you. I have my own business. I don't know if I should start.
Oh,
I was so proud of her. I was like, wow. So she's creating her own way. So it's
yeah.
and she's actually still performing in a dance troupe. She is the one that inspired me when I thought about doing samba, because I had this meditation
Mhm.
where I was like, oh, samba looks fun. Maybe in my next life I'll come back as a Brazilian. And then I heard in the meditation, no, this life. Just because I think, when you think of people like Jane Fonda and you see these people that are like amazing,
Yes,
70 is the new 50 and 80 is the new
yes,
60. You know what I mean? It's just we have such a better quality of life because of the choices we're making of how we eat and how we exercise and how we deal with stress. That your three
exactly.
R's, which I love, I hope everybody wrote those down, those three R's. Say them one more time.
Reassess, reinvent, and reignite.
Yeah. So my mom reassessing, reinventing, and reigniting because if you do not have that passion, there's no life
Yes,
for it. And then you get old. The only reason you get old is because
exactly.
you make a decision not to be passionate anymore. And many people, even though they
Hmm.
don't like their jobs, they do get some sort of stimulation. So when they stop that engagement, that's when their health deteriorates. There's literally medical studies that show that when people retire and get unengaged, that's when medical challenges start happening. So what you're talking about is
True.
staying engaged so that you can live a long and quality life and actually being in midlife, which I hate to think that 50s is midlife, but I guess it is. How can that be beneficial for people that are starting out as professional speakers midlife?
Because they have so much more experience to offer. I mean, even now, remember, there was one time where there were a lot of, you reach 65-year-olds. Companies are still laying off 65-year-old people, but now it's been in the news lately where those companies realize the value and the experience that those people have. They're actually going back and bringing some of those people back in as consultants. That experience is priceless.
Hmm.
So even with my clients that I coach, like you mentioned, if they're at a job that they're unhappy about. I remember a young lady years ago, before she became an executive at a fashion company, she was working at a department store and just complained and was miserable. Well, she eventually became an executive, and I remember her saying, wow, had I not spent so much time complaining and spent more time learning, I would have been better prepared for this position. So with my clients, when they're unhappy somewhere, I usually try to reiterate that you might be there for a purpose. So what is it there that you need to focus on learning now that can prepare you for the next step? Like we can work on your next career, but I also want you to go to work tomorrow with open eyes, open ears, because there's a reason why you're there right now.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So whatever that anyone's doing right now, I can guarantee they can utilize that in their speaking career, which could wind up being con- consulting for companies. What if they wind up consulting for their own company years down the line? The sky's the limit. We
And
never
that's
know where our path is going to take us.
And that's the wonderful thing about being a professional speaker for a living is because it's not just speaking. In fact, I think the whole career is really helping. And whether you help people when
Mm-hmm.
you're on stage or helping people through consulting or helping people through webinars or online trainings, you are solving a pain or problem that your audience members have. And when you are
Yeah,
clear and concise about your method of doing that, you will get booked. But it's about demonstrating to meeting planners that you have that expertise, that and you're having all of that experience. One of the things I teach in my mastermind group is the 7 E's to position yourself as an expert. And one of it is life experience, work experience, but also the evolution of what you've learned in your lifespan. There has been definitely breakdowns to breakthroughs, and those are lessons that your audiences can get so they don't have to go through the same thing. That's the benefit
correct.
of your maturity, that is the benefit of your wisdom, etc. So I know for me that fear is something that comes up almost every time that I hit the stage. I always do a
Mhm.
prayer. It's just a natural thing, the fight or flight, to have anxiety when you're going to speak. How can people that are, stopping themselves before they even get started break through that emotion of fear? Besides the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, any other tools that you have for them?
You know what? I like to take time every day for deep breathing.
Mm.
Yeah, weekly I make sure I'm doing something that's related to nature. I just had a client recently just really stressed out. And I asked her, I said, how often do you get out in the park? Just sit on the grass with your feet on the ground, sit against a tree. Just those little basic healing things that they used to do back in the day that we really get away from because we're in such a rush and our to-do list is long. We have the kids, we have the job, but those natural healing tools, hot baths, those things where you take care of you, that helps a lot with fear.
I'm taking cold showers. I already took two today just because we're
Yes,
having a
because
heat wave and I haven't.
you have a heat wave, right?
I'm like, no hot baths for me. But
No
you
hot baths, no,
You are
no.
so right about breathing. I have anxiety when it comes to driving, like scared to get even on the freeway. And I've been going to this yoga therapist, and she has me doing breathing exercises where I breathe in for 5 and I breathe out for 6.
Five, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and it just,
Yeah.
whenever I'm in a state of anxiety, I just automatically go to that cadence of that breath. And she says, you cannot have an anxious body, or you can't have an anxious mind in a calm body. So when you
Mhm.
use the breath, and this is not just for being on stage, some of you listening are scared to maybe call like meeting planners. I used to be scared, Cenita, back in the day. People would call me to want to hire me, and I would be scared to
Mhm.
call them back. And my coach would be like,
Oh my God,
why are you
me
scared?
too.
They want to hire you. I'm like, because I don't know
Right,
how much to charge. And that's why I love
right.
the Be a Paid Speaker Now online academy, because I teach you how much to charge. I give you my fee sheet. I give you everything, because that was one of the things that was stopping me from even sealing deals that were right in front of me, not knowing the fees.
Mm, very, that's so true.
Yeah, wow,
Yeah.
you have so many great tips. I could have you back for another episode, which I will, because I want to
You.
invite you back to talk about your speaking, and I want to talk about your story, and just to talk about, all the things. And I'm really excited that you're going to be part of the summer mastermind. So I know there's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
breakthroughs after that. So we'll definitely have you back towards the end of the summer. I'm sure everyone would love that. How can people stay in touch with you on social media?
They can just go to my website, www.cenitajohnson.com. That's C as in cat, ENITAJOHNSON. That's
Fantastic.
right.
And I'll also have it in the show notes. And by the way, if you're listening to this on iTunes, we'd really appreciate if you could write a review. This is how the show gets out there. This is how people are going to hear about us, know about us. It is my mission to get 1 million messengers in the next year out,
Wow.
because if we are able to speak our truth, to let our voices be heard, to allow our divine talent, skills, and abilities to be out there and exposed in the world, we are going to have a different world than we have today. It's going to be one that is
Absolutely.
peaceful. It's going to be one that is harmonious, that is going to be with justice, equality, and alignment. And that comes from people being courageous and speaking up and saying their truth. Cenita gave you so many great tips, from her 3 R's to the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to the expansion. There's just, if you even apply one of the techniques that Cenita said, you will be able to be paid to speak. And if you're interested in the online academy, you could go to beapaidspeakernow.com. That's www.beapaidspeakernow. You can join the online academy, the mastermind, or have some VIP coaching. And I'm so grateful to be of service to you today. I really believe that you all are messengers for the message, and that with the power of synergy, anything is possible. Thank you so much, Cenita.
Thank
Thanks for tuning in. Join us next week for more juicy secrets to get you paid to hit that stage. If you would like to grab my free ebook on how to be a confident speaker, go to www.deborahderas.com/speak now. And remember, you are the messenger for the message. See you next week.